Okay, we're rolling.
Everybody, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. Now, I listen to a lot of podcasts about podcasting. Some I love, some I'm like, this is a podcaster that I love. He has all of the answers, and they're all guaranteed to be completely truthful in the right answer. It's all about podcast answers. Andy's here, and I reached out to him because I listen to his show all the time. Every new episode, I'm there listening. He's at the top of my list. And I learn something every time from this gentleman. I love how he does his show. I love his approach. And for him to say yes, to spend some time with us, I think we're all going to benefit from this. So if you're looking for the right answer to questions around podcasting, Podcast Answers is the show. Andy, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Dave, thanks for having me on. And hey, let me first say this. I'm not always right. No, I just like to take it from the advantage of I've been doing podcasting since 2007, and things have changed a lot since 2007, right? Back then, it was super hard to get into, and you needed to know a lot of technical stuff. And I come from a technical background. And so for me, that was easy, but I know it's not easy for everybody. And so I've learned a lot of things over the years, and I've learned right ways to do things. I've learned wrong ways to do things. I've learned sometimes things can be right for me, but wrong for you. So I started my show called Podcast Answers just to help people out and answer the kind of just any question people have. So on the side, I do podcast editing and consulting one-to-one for paid, but I figured I wanted to offer that to people for free who kind of wanted to just listen to a podcast and get it, who didn't want one-to-one coaching, but had some questions. And so that's what the show's for, and that's what I exist to do.
You are a super genuine person, too. When I listen, there's nothing fake about you. When you're on the mic, it's you, and that's what I love. I love when somebody's just real. Like, I don't get anything from you that makes me go, is that how he is in real life? Because every time you show up, you're the same, you're consistent. You bring such great value to your audience, of which I'm one of your audience members. So
thanks.
I just wanted to, on behalf of everyone else who listens to your show, like me, I just want to speak for the group. Thank you for what you do for us as listeners. And I just encourage you to keep going because it's so much value.
Thanks. And to be honest, one of the other reasons I decided to start the show is because I've always had a co-host. I've always done all of my shows that I've done. I've had me and one other person. And so the majority of my show is just me. Occasionally I have people on as guests and, kind of guest co-hosts like you do. But for the most part, it's just me. And so I wanted to try something new. I wanted to try something different where it's just me in front of the mic recording on a podcast. And so that's what I do.
Talk a little bit about your setup, because I love how you do this not only just in audio format. You do a YouTube version, you're streaming, right? You're like sharing live with an audience. Tell a little bit about your background of your show, too.
Sure. Yeah. So I am, like you said, I'm doing everything there. I'm doing live YouTube. I have a video version, and I'm also streaming via I'm not sure if you've heard of podcasting 2.0 at all.
Yeah.
But one of they've been trying to do some improvements on podcasting, and one of the things that they've implemented is a live tag, which allows some podcast apps to display and do live audio. And so I've been doing that. So live audio in podcast apps, live to YouTube, live to video, Facebook. And then I publish that as just a YouTube video later. So one of the things that I like about that is it allows people to kind of have some say into it as I'm going live. I've always had an interest in radio, and I was trained in radio. I never took a radio job, but I was actually trained in radio. And so I like that kind of interactive, that live aspect of a show. And so for me, one of the things that I really like is having people be able to watch me as I'm recording and then put in comments and kind of shape the show as we go along. And so that YouTube and Facebook Live and all of that has allowed me to do that. I'm using a tool called Ecamm. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. Yeah. It's a Mac software, but it allows you to do some live streaming. And the cool thing about it is you can see the comments right on the side of the app, and you can bring them right on the screen. And so it allows people to kind of help shape the show. And for me, I've always again, this is one of the things that not every thing I do is right, is right. But the way that I prefer to produce my own podcasts is essentially what I call live to tape.
Yeah.
I hit record, I do the show, I hit stop, I do a tiny bit of post-production, but not, it's mostly just adding some compression and stuff, but I don't do a whole lot of editing. I'm ready to go. So that's kind of how it's helped me have a better episode too, because I've learned to be able to kind of shape my episode as I'm doing it live. So for me, that's doing it live has helped to do that, because I know I can't stop and re-record and do things like that. So it's helped me produce a better show.
Now I have to ask, Andy, there's a traffic signal behind you. It's green light right now. Is that,
yes, there
is someone missing a traffic signal right now? Like, do you need to confess to anything?
No, now it's red.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I got it. It was a retired traffic light.
Okay.
Somebody in my community gave it to me. I'm also a geek at heart, so I rewired it and allowed it to be controlled via the web page, and so I can easily quickly control it.
Okay, I was just wondering if there's like traffic problems near your house because you have the light.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. As a viewer, I'm like, I gotta ask. I have to know. So that's good. I'm glad to hear everything's safe where you live. Okay, good. So, okay, over all the years of answering questions about podcasting, do you have like probably some of the top questions that you get asked most frequently around podcasting by new podcasters? Because we got people listening.
By new, ooh,
yeah,
geez.
come on.
I would say maybe not necessarily a question, but one of the things that I like to tell new people, especially, is don't look at your stats, because I think we get too caught up in stats and too caught up trying to be the next Joe Rogan and the next, where we're huge and we have all of these streams and all of these followers and making, millions of dollars off of our shows. The majority of the people, that's not going to happen for, right? I mean, I think the reason that I like podcasting is because it allows me to have a voice and you to have a voice. We don't have to be specifically hired for a radio show or a television show. We can talk about what we're passionate about. And so I really like that, but those shows are not necessarily going to be the ones that are getting hundreds of thousands of millions of views. And so I like to tell people, don't check your stats, especially when you're just starting out, because I think that gets to be super discouraging. People say, oh, I only have 32 people. Oh, I only have 100 people. Oh, I only have 500 people, whatever. But if you think about that, if you'd imagine 500 people in front of you, that's a lot of people, right? And that's 500 people or 300 people or 30 people that you're directly having an influence on, because your voice is going directly into their ears, and they come back week after week after week for your content. And so no matter the number, don't check that at first. And if you do check it, take that with a grain of salt and know that don't get discouraged by it.
Okay. How are you seeing your engagement on video platforms like YouTube, for example? Are you seeing it working for you over time? Is that something that you're finding success with as a podcaster?
Yeah, I think in the podcasts that I do, I for myself, I'm definitely seeing kind of almost an even split with the numbers between on a video podcast like YouTube versus just an audio only platform. Now, obviously, we've always been able to do audio or video podcasts. I mean, from the beginning, Apple has included it in Apple Podcasts, right? You've been able to do it, but it's been super hard because video is expensive to do, as far if you're doing a straight actual like video podcast where you're producing that in Apple Podcasts, because video files are large and it takes a lot of space to transfer them and to store them. Since YouTube came onto the platform and allowed us to be able to essentially have free hosting. I mean, I don't want to say free. That's a caveat.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you are the product. They're selling ads against your show and things like that. But allowed us to essentially have a free video podcast. I've just always, as long as I've been able to do a video show, I've done it, because I figure, why not? I don't consider that my main. I wouldn't consider that my main product, if you will. I mean, I've always tried to deliver my podcast audio first, and by that I mean I try to there's some shows that I listened to before that you can tell that they're doing video also, because they don't describe a lot. They'll say something like, "Oh, here's the product I'm holding," and they don't describe it at all, right? Or whatever. And so I try to make my shows audio first, if you will. So the product stands alone as an audio show, and I use YouTube and Facebook more as supplemental, where I'm doing video because I can, but for me it's more about the audio first. But the nice thing about those other platforms is it does allow me to have community engagement, which I think is super important, because like I was saying, I allow that to shape my show. People are watching live, and again, because I don't do a whole lot of editing that works, I just leave that live streamed product up on YouTube. But I do allow them to essentially shape the show, because if they have comments, or I'll read them out. I mean, I don't know about you, but when you're listening to a show and somebody reads your comment, whether you know, even back in the day before people were doing a lot of live streaming stuff, I'd write into shows, and I mean, I know that I'm just a podcaster. I don't consider myself any special person or any famous celebrity, but even me, even though I know that and I do it myself, I write into a different show, and I always loved it when I hear, you know, my comment through email come through on their show as they were recording. And so this essentially is the same type of thing, except for I don't have to wait, you know, a week and a half or 2 weeks till they record a new episode. I'm watching as they record the episode, people are watching me as I record my episode, and I shout out to them. I read their comment, and even bringing it up on screen, I think, helps too, because they see their little profile picture up there, they see their comment up there on screen, and that really drives engagement.
Yeah, that's good. So outside of the live streaming version of your podcast, what else are you doing to encourage engagement from your audience? Emails, DMs, voice messages, anything else that you're doing for maybe the audio side of the podcast?
Yeah, so I would say I would love to start an email list. I haven't done that yet. I know I've encouraged people to do it, because it's, like, again, a way that you can keep in contact with your people. If should your show go away or whatever, you always have their email address. I've not started that, so maybe that's something I'll do in this new year for Podcast Answers. But I haven't yet. But what I have been doing is I've tried to do a lot of short videos and putting things on Instagram and on YouTube Shorts. Just if I a lot of times for me, at least with this podcast, it's more of like upcoming things. Like I tease the topics that I'm going to talk. I try to tease the topics that I'm going to be talking about. In my other show, which I do with a co-host, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll try and take, if there was a good quote from the guest, I try to quote that and put that up on one of the social medias. A lot of times what I've done too is when I do get a new follower on Instagram, I like to reach out to them and DM them via voice, because I think that again, that's one of those same type of things where you're connecting with your audience, and they may not expect to get a voice message from you. So it's really super simple to go into the messaging app on Facebook or Instagram and just hit that record button and say, "Hey, thanks for following. Is there a topic that you would like me to cover?" So I've not had anyone take me up on that part, is telling me what they want me to cover yet. But
you've answered a lot of questions already on your show, so there's going to be a hard time to kind of come up with a new question for you, because you've done so many episodes. The one things I'm using SpeakPipe, speakpipe.com, and it allows people to leave an audio message for me, which is great, because then I can bring their audio message into the podcast when I'm doing my editing. As well, I'm using my Buy Me a Coffee, and through my Buy Me a Coffee, I have a chance with any money that comes in from my audience to leave them a video message back. So it's tailored message just for them, and I get great engagement from that. So that's really fun as well. So those are two other elements outside of live streaming and live comments. Maybe that could also help somebody listening. And Buy Me a Coffee is free to set up, and so is SpeakPipe. So they have a free plan as well. So those are two other things that I'm trying.
I've been using. I've just recently gotten into it. I have a Zoom business account just because, again, I do a lot of my recording on Zoom for my remote guests that I have coming into my shows, and with Zoom you can also then up your plan to have a phone plan on that. And so it's allowed me to be able to do a couple different things. I can have it, during the week when I'm not recording, I can have it go to like a voicemail type of thing, and it will send me an MP3. But then if I want to, as I'm recording, I can switch that and actually just have it essentially bring my Zoom. And so people could essentially call into the studio live. I haven't had many people do that yet, but it's something that I'm toying around with and trying, just because, again, I like trying to throw things on the wall and see what sticks. That's one of the things that I loved about when podcasting 2.0 first came around. I was super interested in it because, again, I've been podcasting since 2007, and so it really interested me because they were starting to push the limits and starting to put new tags in the RSS feeds to do new and fun things. And so, yeah, I like being on the cutting edge and just kind of trying things. And then I can as I consult with people, I can also say, hey, this is what's working for me. This is what I tried. Hey, don't put your time in here because this didn't work for me. Sort of things like that.
All right. Some predictions. We're recording this near the end of the year, which is, I'm thrilled you have time for me. Some predictions for 2026 as you kind of look out into the future of the new year ahead. What are some of your wishes, your hopes for podcasting? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So one of the things that I really thought was amazing was Apple Podcasts has started to add some of the things from podcasting 2.0.
Right.
They added the transcript tag, and they, again, do it in their own Apple way, but that's fine. They've honored if you as a podcaster have the transcript tag in your RSS feed, they will honor that transcript that you as a podcaster produced. They've also recently started doing chapters. They've always had chapters if you embed them in the MP3, but they're starting to do it more in the way of podcasting 2.0, where you can provide the chapter file externally from the MP3. So again, I geek out about that because one of the things that I didn't like, I've always done chapters in my podcast, but one of the things I didn't like is the fact that once you put those in the MP3 file, they're there. Like, you have to literally replace the MP3 file in order to change the chapters. And so the chapter spec that podcasting 2.0 has come up with is essentially it's an external file that lives somewhere on the internet, and it's a JSON file, and it's referenced in your feed, and then podcast apps can pull that in. The nice thing about that is you can update those chapters whenever. If you want to add another chapter in, you want to take it out, you want to do whatever, you can easily do that. And so I've really appreciated that Apple is starting to see what podcasting 2.0 has implemented, and they're adding those things. So what I would love to see, this is where my prediction comes in. I would love to see them add the live item tag, meaning that I can go live with my episode audio on Apple Podcasts. And you get notified if you're subscribed to my show. You can listen to my live episode right there in the show. Again, I'm big on live, and so I would love to see that happen in Apple Podcasts because I know that's one of the biggest podcast apps. There's a lot of the smaller apps, or a couple of the smaller apps that are doing these live episodes, like Castamatic and a few others. But I would love to see it come to Apple Podcasts because, again, it's pretty big. How about yourself? What do you hope for this next year?
One of the predictions I'm thinking is there's going to be some changes as far as some of our podcast hosts. I'm noticing there's more new podcast hosting companies now, like Riverside has added hosting, which is interesting. Yeah. So hosting seems to become like not as important as a main function of a business. It's like it's becoming less. Libsyn is more about ads right now and less about hosting, where they were all hosting for a long time. And I'm just wondering what's happening with the hosting sites, because there seems to be a lot of choices for people. New podcasts are starting out. But at the same time, the hosting component of what they do seems to be not as important as it used to be, going back historically. So I don't know where we're going with that in 2026.
That'll be interesting to see, because I think you're right. I think at the very beginning of podcasting, like, everybody needed to have a place to put their files, their audio files, and so lots of main players came up. Like you mentioned Libsyn, that was one of the first, if not the first, podcast host. But I think as time has gone on, that's become such a commodity. I mean, obviously, we've seen things like Spotify for Creators, or what used to be Anchor, offering free podcast hosting, and RSS.com offers free podcast hosting, and a few others do too. Now, again, you don't get a whole lot with that. That's just the hosting. So I've always encouraged anybody who's a listener of mine to buy hosting, because I think that you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And so if you buy it, it's going to be it's going to be better off in the long run.
Right.
But I think that podcast hosts have had to develop different products and different offerings that help them stand out. And I think we've seen, lots of different things happen. I've seen, Blueberry and Buzzsprout have come up with a lot of these AI type tools where you can have it help write your show notes or help master your file and things like that. So I'd be interested to see what kind of things come out with the different hosts. Different hosts.
It's hard to innovate when hosting the file is what you do. That's right. Because everyone's doing that almost to a different extent, but basically that's the basic foundation of what they do. It's all the additional things they're putting on now, and then deciding what you need and what you don't need, what you can afford and what you can't afford. Because sometimes it gets a little bit pricey when it's an extra this per month for that, and it's an extra this much for this for that on top of your hosting. And that number just keeps going up and up for some people. And I'm just afraid that if you don't need all those things, and they wrap all of the AI features and everything into one fee, but you're only using like 10% of what that site offers, you're not getting the full benefit of the rest of it, right? So
right.
I'm really, when I'm working with podcasters too and kind of deciding what they can afford and what works for them, that's tough. And if they want to do a video podcast, like a traditional video podcast through RSS, to Apple and all those places, then you only have a certain number of hosts that even do that. So that's another thing to consider too.
Yeah, I think what you're right. I think we'll start to see other things that weren't traditionally podcast hosts come into hosting and offer that as a side benefit. Whereas in the past we've seen that people add on these extra things to help entice people into their podcast hosting. Where I think we'll see now is things like you mentioned, Riverside. Things that were traditionally like recording tools that weren't necessarily podcast hosting tools, add podcast hosting as a benefit, because obviously it's expensive. If you've got a $20 a month podcast hosting fee, you've got something like Zoom or Riverside or name your tool for remote recording on top of that, and then you have to pay if you're using a subscription like Adobe or Adobe Audition, things like that. That gets really expensive for if you're just doing it as a hobby, right? And so I think we're going to see more and more of these other tools add on podcast hosting, like you were saying, because I think that's a benefit for them, because hosting is just a commodity, but it's a benefit if you're already using that tool, right? Because then you don't have to use the other hosting tools that you may or may not be using all of their other features with.
Yeah. What else are you wishing for in 2026 for podcasters? Anything else come to mind?
Man, I think I'd like to see it be a little bit easier, and this is just a big old pipe dream of mine, be easier to do video, because I think a lot of people understand that, whether right or not, that video is becoming more and more important in podcasting, whether it's a traditional video podcast or just something like a live YouTube stream. But I mean, if it's hard for me as a consultant to be able to go, okay, you need to do video too, because I think a lot of people, when they try to do video, they get discouraged because it is so hard. Whereas audio is relatively easy, because you can buy a fairly decent mic for a couple $100, even one that just plugs right into your USB. You don't even need to have a fancy thing like a Rodecaster or other audio interface. You can just plug right into your computer. But when it comes to video, it's definitely getting easier, I think. There are some other cameras like the OBSBot, the little PTZ cameras that are a little bit better than just a webcam, that have pretty decent quality. But I would love to see it be super simple and super easy to do, because I mean, the camera that I'm talking to you on is the Sony ZV-E10 with a Sigma 16 lens, and that's just not something that. I mean, then you get into how do you bring that into your computer, because you gotta get an HDMI capture card, and there's all of this stuff that's kind of hard. So I would love to see almost like a all-in-one podcasting video thing. You can just like sit down and plug it in and go.
Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting. The one thing too, like I'm not an Apple person, so when I hear you talk about all these great Apple tools, I get a little jealous. I got to tell you, because there's some really great things that I've been watching podcasters, and I reach out to them. I'm like, what are you using? Oh, I've got Apple this, and I got Apple that, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I can't replicate that the way you are, but I love how your look for your show is, and yeah, you can tell you put some time and effort into this. I love it.
Thanks. Yeah, and I mean, I love the tool, the Ecamm tool that I'm using for live streaming and video production, just because it's super simple. It fits my motto of doing the record to tape, live to tape. You know, I do all of it. I don't post produce any of my video. It's all I hit record as I'm recording, and I switch scenes and do overlays and stuff. Again, part of my radio. The training that I had was not just radio, but it was also video too. And so again, it goes back to my training, and I just love being able to kind of do it all in one, like whether it be radio or TV type production. I like to be, when I'm done with it, be done with it and ready to move on.
If you were just doing audio for a second, let's talk about this for a second, and you were not doing it live, how would you be super over editing your product when you're recording just in audio? Do you think you'd be doing it a lot different and maybe longer? Would it take you longer to do it?
Sure, it definitely would take me longer. So I do edit podcasts on the side for other people, and so it definitely takes me a lot longer to do than an episode where I'm just doing my own episodes, because again, my episode's done, shipped out the door. But I think I'm a little bit more picky in those because I try to tighten it up a little bit. Again, I've been doing this for a while, so I'm for myself, I'm familiar and kind of trying to think about what I'm saying and not have dead air, but kind of be able to fill that, where I think a lot of times people have more dead air and maybe repeating themselves. And so it does take longer. And that's one of the things that I think I know I would do, because when I don't go live and I'm just recording something, even now to this day, I still mess up, and then I try to re-record that to sound perfect. And so it definitely takes a lot longer to do, because you when you're live, you can't do that, right? Like if you're trying to make a good product right out the door, you can't go back and re-record what you said. You just have to go, okay, I'm okay with that, or whatever. So yeah, if I was just doing audio and I was editing also, it would definitely take me a lot longer to do my episodes. And I think it would probably get a little bit discouraging for me too, just because of the time it would take to do.
I think the nice thing about doing live like you do is that it's kind of like a speaker being on stage in front of a live audience. There's no editing in a live environment. There's nobody sitting off stage taking out an or an fixing up that, or maybe there was a word that was mispronounced, or there's nobody off camera fixing you when you're live. So you have to naturally over time develop your voice, get better at talking and speaking in front of people like somebody would on stage, compared to somebody who records privately, edits, and releases it after. You don't have to be perfect. And you can hide all of the things that, you're like, oh, I didn't like how I said that, I'm going to fix it, like you talked about. And when you take somebody who edits themselves all the time and put them onto a live stage, you get to see who they really are, because there's no safety net, right? So I love what you're doing, because you're doing it in front of us. So when I see you live speaking at an event or meet you at a coffee shop, you're the same guy I listen to and watch. There's no change, no difference, right?
I think people, when they edit, to have that tendency to clean all of that up, and that's not how we speak naturally. Like even when I'm, if you go back and listen to some of my episodes, I've done an episode about filler words, ums, ahs, ands, those type of things, and I've talked about how to get better at that. And one of the ways that you do that is you listen to yourself for one. So I almost always listen to my episodes once I've published them, just for listening's sake, not for editing and not for going back and saying, oh shoot, I wish I could have changed that to be something different. But just so I can hear how I'm sounding. I get used to hearing myself on audio, because that's one of the things that no one likes to hear is themselves in a recording. But I listen to myself because I take that opportunity to go, oh, I didn't even realize that I said 30 times in that episode. And so that becomes in my brain. And then the other way that I do that is I also recommend putting like a sticky note up in front of your mic or your camera with the words that you commonly say, so you can be conscious of those, and so hopefully help cut those out of your show. But I think people definitely over edit that and make that sound unnatural. And so that, to me, that's one of the pet peeves, is when people cut all of the space out. Like I try to, if I'm editing, I try to cut down some of the spaces out of it, so it's not lots of dead air, but dead air is natural. I mean, even when we're talking, if we're talking at a coffee shop, there'd be sometimes where I'm not talking and you're not talking, right? Just kind of a little bit of a pause. And so if you edit all of those pauses out and you edit all of the ums and the ahs out, it doesn't sound natural. So when I'm recording, I try to leave some of that space in there. I try to leave some of the ums and ahs in there. Yeah, I remove some of them because I think a lot of times people say them too much because they use them as a crutch. Yeah. But because those are natural in our speech, even professionals that are talking on stage, watch them. I mean, that's one of the things that you can do is, if you go to a conference or something, watch and listen to the people that are on stage, and kind of pick up on how they deliver their speech, how they talk, how they pace themselves, and try to take note of the things that you like about that and implement that into your own podcast. I
was listening to a podcast recently, and the host sounded like they were running down a hill while trying to have a conversation.
Oh, wow.
Like they were just so fast, no breath. Everything was slammed together, so you could tell they were going from point 1 to point 2, but they removed every gap, slammed the words together. There was not even like a chance for them to inhale for the next thing they were going to say. And as a listener, I found my anxiety level starting to rise a little bit, because I couldn't, as a listener, I'm kind of trying to match my podcaster I'm listening to, and I felt like I had to speed up and be motivated and go. Like, I'd be great at the gym, but I'm not at the gym. I'm not on a treadmill. So I was just longing for a gap so that I could catch up to them, because we're always kind of like a few words behind what the person is saying. We're not in the moment hearing and taking it all in. So anytime you can slow down and give the audience a little bit of a break, allows them to catch up to you, and then you can keep going. I just think sometimes when we leverage some of these tools that are out there that will just collapse all breaks, all silence, all gaps, and slam everything together in one big long sentence over a period of 30 minutes, as a listener, I just get a little anxious. I don't know. What are your thoughts about some of these tools that just remove some of the humanity from our voice?
Yeah, it sounds unnatural, and I don't like it. Yeah. And it's interesting. I have found, I'm going to be honest, I am a person who sometimes listens at 1.5x. Okay. 2 point is too much. Yeah. 1.5x, but I find myself, again, like you said, trying, like, everything is too fast, and just in general, and so then my whole day is anxious, and so I'm slowly learning to slow those down to 1.x and being able to know that it's okay if I don't have all of my episodes listened to. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and so if I listen to that's my mentality is, well, if I'm listening to them at 1x, then I'm never going to get through them all. If I listen to them at 1.5, I'm going to get through them faster. But like you said, you're more anxious. You just don't have. You're too fast, and I don't think your brain can comprehend that. And so I think listening to podcasts at 1x is better for your health, and it's something that I'm starting to do myself, just because, and I'm okay. I'm getting okay with going, okay, this episode, the title, I don't necessarily need to hear every podcast episode from every podcaster that I'm listening to. If I don't have time for it, then it's fine that I either delete it or I wait till later till I do have time to listen to it. If it's something I really do want to listen to. And for me, myself too, I have had to learn to speak slower. I am naturally a very fast speaker. And so, especially when I get excited about things, especially when it's a topic that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
So, which is what I'm podcasting about, are things that I enjoy. And so I've had to slow down myself, slow down my thinking, slow down my speaking. And again, that's why when I'm listening back to my own episodes, it helps, because then I can go, oh man, that was way too fast. Even if, or my pacing was off on that, or whatever. And so that's why, I always recommend listen to your episodes. That way you can go back and make changes to be a better podcaster.
So being around podcasters, helping podcasters, coaching, having a show that helps podcasters, you answer all the questions, which again, I love. If you could do a podcast completely for fun, just for joy, makes you happy in 2026, about something unrelated to podcasting, but just something that would just be so much fun for you, like, I don't know, traffic lights, I don't know, something, a podcast about something. What would that be for you that just would be just joy for you, not work, just fun?
Sure.
What would you do?
So I think a podcast about traffic lights would be terrible. I wouldn't get one episode and it'd be done.
Green light.
I think, man, one of the things that I really enjoy doing is producing. I do a lot for my day job. I'm in IT, but I also do some production work, conferences and things like that, audio video for conferences.
Nice.
And so I think one of the things that I would do for fun would be talking about the technology and things that I'm learning in that. So that's one of the things I like, is when I'm learning something is when I have a tendency to want to talk about it, right? If I'm learning anything, I'm always talking to somebody, whether it's my wife, my kids, which usually they get tired of me so talking about things, and so that's why I go to do podcasting. But that sounded really mean. I didn't mean it as mean as that sounded. Just they can only take so much of me talking about a topic before they get overloaded. So, I think if I were to start a podcast just for fun, it would be all about the different production tools that I'm using in my productions.
Okay.
So outside of podcasting, so still maybe a little along the lines of podcasting, but the other show that I do is a show, and this is something that I do for fun. It's not podcast related, but it is a show called Dudes and Dads Podcast. And me and my co-host on that show talk with other guys, introduce our friends to other friends. And so we think of our podcast as a giant friend network. And so if we know somebody that has a really cool story, we help them tell that story to others. And so we've talked a lot about with people who we either were adopted when they were young, didn't know their father, had adoptions. We've talked all sorts of people, but those are some of our biggest episodes, or a couple around adoption. But so yeah, we like to just talk. I like to say everyone has a story, and so I like to help tell that story.
All right. Well, one of my other shows is called Dad Space. It's a podcast for dads by dads. So, hey, I'm definitely going to have to check that out. Come on.
Yeah.
That's great.
Definitely.
I love it. Yeah, my wife has told me I'm not allowed to have any more shows, Andy, because I have 9 different podcasts that I host, which is absurd. Yeah, too many. So I'm not allowed to go to 10.
That's more than I have.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to go to 10. I'm not allowed. So, I'm cut off at that. But yeah, the reason I started this show again was I just wanted to have people like you on, celebrate other great podcasters that I admire, who serve the community well. I know sometimes as podcasters, we don't hear it often enough. So that's selfishly one of the reasons I wanted you on, just so I could tell you, your show, it's got so much value for us as a listening audience.
I appreciate it.
Watching you and seeing you create in real time, I think gives us all permission to go, well, if this guy can do this at this high level for this long and continue to show up for us, then I feel inspired that I can do something on my scale, whatever I can commit to. But you're a great example for us as podcasters about the fact that we can do this. And you're not afraid of technology. Some people are. So watching you kind of do this in real time, you become a subject matter expert for us, where we can say, I want to do what you're doing. How do I get there? right? So that would be, I think that'd be a great onboarding for people that are watching this and listening to this, going, I want to do what this guy's doing because it's really working, and I love what you're doing and how you approach your show. I think it's inspiring. So,
yeah, and I find that a lot of times when I'm trying to come up with topics for my show too, it's whatever I'm thinking about. So it's whether it's I'm helping somebody through moving a podcast host or starting a podcast or whatever, because I realize that I've been doing this since 2007, and so I know all of this stuff, but not everybody does, and so I know that not everybody learns the same way, and so I try to teach people, if they need coaching, hand-holding, then I can more than happy to do the one-to-one consulting. But if you just really like to learn on your own via YouTube or audio podcast, then that's the way I offer back to the community is that, and allow people to just kind of learn on their own pace. And again, I come up with whatever I'm thinking about as far as podcasting goes, and sometimes that's super advanced topics. Sometimes it's back to the basics of, okay, how do you start a podcast? What is the cover art? What is a good microphone to start with? How do you make these decisions? And again, if you need to change podcast hosts, and I did. I went at one point. I was hosted on Libsyn, and I moved over to Captivate, and so that was a learning. I mean, I knew how to do it, but it was a learning experience for me, and so I wanted to talk to other people about it, and so that's again one of the episodes I did.
It's good. Andy, your website, podcastanswers.com. We'll have a link for everybody in the show notes, as always. And we can see all of your episodes there and try to track your show as we go. Anything else on the website? Anything else you want to make sure we talk about and cover before we go?
Nope, that's it. I just encourage you to go over and check it out. And I would encourage you to contact me with your questions, because that's one of the things that I started the show to answer people's questions, but haven't had a whole lot of people write in with their questions. And so a lot of the topics that I'm doing are just things that I'm like, oh, this would be interesting for me to talk about and people to learn. But if you have a podcasting question, podcastanswers.com/contact will get you to my contact form, and just ask away, and I'll probably do an episode on it. And so, yeah.
That sounds great.
Submit your questions.
Okay, so Andy, I'm turning over the How to Podcast series show to you now as a podcaster. I'm going to go sit with the audience and listen the way I listen to your show. So you wrap this up however you want to wrap this up, because this episode's about having you on, and I'm just so thrilled you have time to do this. So I'm going to go sit with everyone else. This is your show, Andy. You end it however you want to end it. But I take it away, my friend. I love having you here.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in today. If you have any questions about podcasting at all, contact Dave or myself. Both of us would love to help you out. You can contact me at podcastanswers.com/contact. And I'd love to see you in my community and answer your podcasting question. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
See, and that's how you do it, everybody. Andy, thank you so much for doing this. Again, as a listener in Canada, when you look at your stats, that's me. So I'm up here listening, and I love it. I love it. All right. So keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm super thrilled to have you here. Happy New Year.
Thanks for listening to the podcast all the way through to the end. I love having these great guest co-hosts on the show to share their podcast with you. You have some homework to do. And what I'm asking of you is to go check out our featured guest co-host today. Go over and listen to their podcast. The links are always in the show notes. And I'd love for you to go and give them your love and support. And I think if we can all do that for each other, podcasting will be a lot more fun for all of us. So it's time to do what you've asked others to do for you. It's time to do for this guest co-host. Links in the show notes. Go over and check out their show. And leave them a review. Do the follow. Go listen to their episodes in full. The entirety of an episode. Which again shows to the apps that it's a good podcast, because you're going there and you're staying to the end. It's probably one of the best ways you can help a podcaster grow their audience and be shown to more people is by simply going and listening wherever you listen to the very end, like you're doing right now here. This is the perfect way to signal to wherever you're listening on, this is a podcast worth promoting. And all of the apps want you to stay on as long as possible. So
Go over and listen to our guest co-host episode and leave them some feedback. If they have a buy me a coffee, send them a coffee. If they have a speak pipe, send them a voice message. If they have an email, send them an email. If they're on Instagram, send them a direct message. Do something to support our guest co-hosts. They've given up their time to be here with you, to be here with me, and we can give that back to them with time and attention, our love, our support. Thank you for doing all that for me as well. Here on the How to Podcast series, we'll talk to you soon for our next episode. Hey, you're still here. Awesome. I love having guests on the show. It's always great to share the mic with podcasters that inspire me as a listener and to have time with them and for them to say yes to come on the show. Really great. Your thoughts, and the question was coming back to me about live podcasting, which I'm so glad that we had our guest today to talk about that. When it comes to live podcasting, it does require some additional setup for you as a podcaster to be aware of. The idea of going live might be intimidating for you. And I know some podcasters that I'm talking with, and they have like a storytelling podcast. And the idea of reading their story live is not as interactive maybe as some other types of podcasts. So you really need to understand the format of your show, your audience, who your audience is, where they are, and if live works for you. But I think there's a lot of benefits to being on live video somehow, whether it's live streaming or going live on Instagram or Facebook or on YouTube, LinkedIn. There's a lot of different places now where they're encouraging live interaction with an audience. Why is this important? As we kind of wrap up here, I would just say it's important because in a world of AI, where everyone is getting a little bit jaded around content, is it real? Is that person real? Is this real content? Is this just some AI thing? Whenever we can show up and demonstrate that we are real people creating real content, like it was done in the old days, then it's a way for our audience to know that we're truly who we are. That's why I'm doing my 365-day challenge this year in 2026 is to show up and be Dave in real life. Not perfect, not with all the bells and whistles and the best everything, but just be there and build a bridge daily with my audience across my multiple shows. Is anytime we can show up and be the real us in front of our audience, I think it makes that connection a little bit deeper. So whether you're going to go live and record your episodes live in front of a live audience like Andy does, which is cool, or you're going to be live on some other platform, my encouragement for you this new year is for you to show up in a new way that you haven't done before. And just give it a try. See if it works for you. See if it works for your audience. And let me know your thoughts over at howtopodcast.ca. There's a lot of power in video. I'm still an audio guy. I still love audio. But Andy's right. Anytime we can be on video, in person, live in front of an audience, there's a potential for us to gain some new listeners. I'm warming up to the idea. So look out. You never know what's coming in the future. Thanks for being here. And if you ever need any help, reach out anytime. You know where to reach me. Take care.